Hello, my fellow filmmakers. Today I'm going to break down for you my film called Vivid Dreams that I shot with my buddies Gilbert Rowley and Phil Tuttle in Iceland back in 2023. And this is going to be kind of a full breakdown of the edit, why I chose the shots that I did, kind of my thought process as I was piecing the story together, and give you just like a full breakdown of the film itself. So I'm super excited to share it with you. This project is super special to me. It's kind of my first fly fishing film, and the people that I was with when we shot it, when we created it, have become really good friends of mine, and we're already talking about doing some other cool projects here in the near future too. So let's get into it and just start breaking this down a little bit. So first, to talk about the story. So if you haven't seen the film yet, maybe go ahead and watch it and then come back to this video. But to be honest, like, we were in Iceland and we didn't know what story we wanted to tell. We were sitting there at night after we had been fishing all day, and we couldn't really quite nail down what this story was going to be. We had all kinds of obstacles kind of in our way, and we thought about telling the story of, bad weather and searching for fish, like all day, every day, and only catching one fish per day sometimes. And kind of the classic just trial of trying to catch a fish, but we didn't really want to tell that story. So as we kept talking, while we were there, over the course of several days, we were there for 7 days or so. And while we were there, I kind of was realizing, like, a lot of the dreams that I've had were kind of coming to fruition in this week that we were there, which was fly fishing in a different country, in an epic location, right? Combining filming with it, and being sponsored to do it. So really, it was no money out of our pocket whatsoever, with sponsorships on board. They paid for, they helped pay for our way there. Simms was a big sponsor. Fish Partner was a big sponsor. The people that hosted us there, Simms hooked us up with, like, I had, like, I don't even know, probably at least a couple $1,000 worth of gear that Simms sent me and then the other two guys. So we had, like, all these things happening, and I was just sitting there in Iceland realizing, as I was talking to Gilbert and Phil, like, holy crap, like, this is kind of a manifestation, like, coming to life. And I remembered, and I didn't talk about this in the film, but I remembered back in college, probably 8 years before that, we were assigned to create a LinkedIn profile, and on our profile we were to talk about, what a kind of our dream, I guess, position. And I wrote on my LinkedIn profile, I love telling stories, I love creating videos, something to this effect, right? I love creating stories, or telling stories, I love creating videos, and I love fly fishing. And if I can combine all those things, then, like, that sounds like a dream career, And so I wrote something to that effect on my LinkedIn profile under my biography. And anyway, so this kind of full circle moment happened when I was there. I was like, holy crap, like, I'm being paid to be here. It's no money out of my pocket. Yeah, it was like just kind of this realization of, like, wow, I'm here and it's happening to me. And this doesn't happen, right? Anyway, so the next part of that was just, like, figuring out, I guess, how to tell that story in a good, concise way. And so if you watch the film, you'll see a little bit about, like, my background and honest, and, like, why I always love fishing, and I wanted to go into more detail, but our timeline was, like, super, super tight to finish this edit. But I actually have Crohn's disease, and I wanted to go into a lot more detail about how Crohn's disease has affected my life in a big, big way, and how it, it really debilitated me for a long time. And fly fishing was kind of the thing that kept me afloat. It kept me, getting outside. It kept me sane, to be honest with you. And that's maybe a story for another time, but fly fishing kind of kept me happy. And so I wanted to go more into detail about that, but like with the timeline and, all the other stuff, like I just couldn't, we just had so much to do in this tiny amount of time. So I couldn't go into detail on it, but maybe I will in a future film. And another thing too is I wanted to keep, the film in Iceland. I wanted to keep it there and not pull it back to like me before this whole thing happened. So that's kind of why I decided to just keep it out, was just because of the time of everything. Anyway, so we kind of figured out the story while we were in Iceland, but we still didn't really have a full picture of it. And so as I kind of go through this, we can kind of piece things together bit by bit as I walk you through the edit and why I made the decisions that I made. And let's just go ahead and break this down kind of piece by piece. Now I'm going to be working on, you can see my screen here. This is the master timeline. So this is with the colored version. And again, because of time, I actually had the colorist just send me a ProRes file. And so that's what we do a lot when it's just like quick turnarounds. So I didn't get actual XML files from him. I just got the burned or the ProRes file, which works great. Still looks amazing. This is the final sequence to send to color. And later on in the video, I might get more into that. But for now, we'll just work off this just because it has all the color on it. So this opening shot here, let's just watch this for a second. So you can see that opening shot is 10 seconds long. And this opening shot, I really wanted it to be kind of mysterious. Like you didn't really know what you were looking at. And if you've been to Iceland or if you've seen pictures of these rivers, these glacier rivers before, you may have picked up on it. But really, it's kind of a mysterious shot, but it's really cool, right? Like it's like, whoa, what am I looking at right here? And then this next shot, you kind of get into like, oh, that could be granite, or I don't know what that is. It could be ice. And then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that is ice, right? So I chose to have this as the opening shot because it just kind of just like holds your attention like, whoa, what am I looking at? And I chose this shot specifically because of that reason, why it's like kind of mysterious. That like you can see this timeline of all the drone shots, all these ones on the these clips on the second layer here. These are all usable clips, okay? I could have chose any one of these drone shots. Like these are awesome shots. My friend Gilbert, he was the drone pilot. These are all like what? Are you kidding me? Like that could have been an opening shot and it would have been fantastic, right? Any of these, like this could have been another opening shot. This could have been the opening shot, which it wasn't. And I'm glad it wasn't because this is like that was one of my favorite shots. Same with this waterfall that we hiked up to. Anyway, so I chose this shot specifically because it was like, it keeps like the mystery going, right? Let's move forward, Ennis. What if someone told you that your dreams aren't as far away as you think they are? Show the river. So we're seeing ice, right? This is rivers, obviously, but we don't really know that yet. And then we're bringing in, okay, there's water, and then there's a river right there. And then you see this, and you're like, oh, that's probably a river, right? This voiceover, by the way, I recorded with this microphone. Actually, it was in my other third bedroom office, but in a room just like this. And I just had like some blankets around me. To keep the sound a little better, but that's and I didn't really talk about this at the beginning, but the scripting like basically just kind of came from just thinking about my experience, and maybe we can get more into the script another day, but really it was just a combination of me just thinking a lot about what I wanted to tell, which is ultimately like I want people to understand like if they have dreams, they can achieve them just by putting themselves out there a little bit, right? And so that's kind of the message about the whole film. Spoiler alert. Anyway, let's keep watching. What would you do to make those dreams of today come true tomorrow? At their core, dreams ignite a powerful sense of purpose and potential within us. They act as beacons, guiding us toward our aspirations, nudging us to take risks, prompting us to innovate and push the boundaries of what we think is possible. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there for a second. This was all actually shot on. Some of it was shot on an iPhone. Some of it was shot on a GoPro. I think this was actually on the GoPro. And this shot actually, if we go to this, I'll show you a little secret that I did here. If I'm remembering it right. So this shot was actually of us crossing the river, right? And then this one, but we were actually, if I turn this off, I flipped it. So we were actually walking the opposite way. And I was like, oh man, it would be really cool if we had like a better clip of my feet. And we actually got that on a different day, different river. But this turned out cool because I didn't have quite enough here on this clip. And so what I did is I just flipped it using a horizontal flip. And then it went right into a speed ramp on this clip. Just a little bit of a speed ramp, nothing too crazy. And this clip was shot, I think, at 120 frames a second. It was more shallow water, but it matched pretty good with that water kind of hiding the cut, right? So this is the top clip, and then that's the bottom clip. So, and push the boundary. Pretty seamless transition there that I thought was pretty cool. And, you know, your goal as an editor is to really hide these kinds of things and to make it seamless for the viewer and make it not jarring, right? And so that's what I did. Just a simple horizontal flip, hid the cut with the water level, and then added a tiny bit of a speed ramp to transition into that. So that's how I did it. Anyway, let's go back to here. As you can see, the color on this is just like insane. So much better than the raw clips, right? But wanted to tell that story, just kind of can build that intrigue at the beginning of like, okay, what am I looking at here? Okay, now we're getting into some rivers. Now these guys are walking, and he's kind of talking about doing hard things. So here we go. We think is possible. Cool. Okay, this shot right here. So this shot, I went back and forth with a bunch of different shots of fish, but I really like this one because you can tell it's a fish, first of all. But the golden color on these brown trout was just crazy sometimes, especially this one. This is actually a fish that I caught later on in the trip, and it was so black. You could see the belly is like totally black, and the fins are black, and the back was all black, but the cheeks and the side body was just like gold. It was awesome. So I also, again, continuing to kind of just bring that like intrigue, be like, whoa, that's like a slab of a fish. I want to keep watching, right? And then we introduce like where we are.
So stoked for this morning. Beautiful day. It's not raining, which is good. It's been raining a lot. We're excited to see what happens.
I really love that moment right there. And I actually had this later on, I think, in the video originally on the edit, but I brought it in the beginning because Phil that's Phil Tuttle, by the way, the guy that's on screen right here. He Gilbert was filming Phil at this time. They were just like, let's just go outside. I think I was eating breakfast or something. But I wasn't even outside with them, and they were just like, let's just go get some shots outside. Again, like, didn't know the story, didn't know if this would even make the edit, right? But it ended up looking so good. Like, I love these lines on this barn. The light was perfect, like the beautiful soft Iceland light. Yeah, like the way that this piece together was super great. We also got one of the sponsors. It was a good opportunity to get a couple of sponsor clips in there, right? Like Sims is obviously like front and center on this. And then Thomas & Thomas, needed to get Thomas & Thomas in there as well. They were one of the sponsors as well. So, and then also to show like, this is a nice little spot, right? We didn't do anything on the inside, but this is a nice little spot in Iceland where if you choose to come here, like this is what you'll be staying in, you know? So that's part of it too, is like making sure that we're taking care of the sponsors and showing a little bit of the area without being too like on the nose about it, right? But love the way that he set this up, because it had been raining a ton. It was just puking rain, and the rivers were all just like blown out. And so it was kind of discouraging. And then when the rain finally stopped after a few days, it was like, oh, sweet. Like, we're excited to see. It was truly like, we're excited to see what the rivers look like now, you know, because when it rains in Iceland, it's like the rivers can be like 10 feet higher. And then the next day they're back down to normal, just because of how much water there is there. It's crazy.
So this sea trout fish.
So this sequence is actually supposed to be at the very beginning of the film. And I put everything else in front of it because I felt like it wasn't, it was just kind of like coming at us too hot maybe or something. I don't know. But when we were in Iceland filming this, these driving shots and these drone shots, we were like, okay, this would be sweet. And Gilbert actually kind of painted this picture of like, because we're driving up to this giant river. I mean, it's super wide, and it's where it's where like 3 or 4 rivers kind of come together. And so it's really, really big before it goes into the ocean. And Gilbert was like, it'd be sweet if we had this sequence of, you know, the car kind of driving through the mud and this black sand. And we got a ton of these really awesome car shots, tons of them. I mean, it's just vast, you know. And we were going to use this, and this was going to be like, you know, the opening shot of the film, basically. Right here was supposed to be like, you know, Iceland across the screen. And it didn't even make the final cut, which is kind of funny, but this river was ginormous. But it presented, in the edit, it presented a really good opportunity to really just introduce kind of the characters a little bit and the people behind it. So me, Phil, Gilbert, of course, the color by Jake, and then one of the sponsors, Christian, who is this guy right here, who is the owner of Fish Partner, who brought us out and hosted us. And he also, you know, showed us where to fish, essentially, him and his guides. And we just started talking to him in the truck, and we just started rolling the camera. We wanted to kind of sit down with him and do like a sit down interview, but he had to leave like after the first day, I think, or the second day or something like that. He had to leave, and so we actually didn't even have time to sit down with him with the camera and do like a proper interview. But this turned out good. It was really raw. It was really you know, kind of uncut, so to speak. And just worked out better, I think, overall for the edit.
This sea trout fishery is very special. It's kind of unique. It's all native fish. They've always been here. They were here before the humans, before the Vikings. This is all volcanic area. There are volcanoes all around, so they have survived a lot of volcanic eruptions, floods, lava floods. So these fish are very, very strong and very special. Big fish. I mean, very big fish. I mean, huge fish.
So this was actually cool. I just started rolling in the front seat, and then Phil or Gilbert, one of them, actually pulled the camera out of the bag in the back seat and started rolling too. And I didn't even know that they were rolling actually, but in the edit it came together so well because it breaks up that kind of wide angle side look. And so it was a perfect kind of way to break it up a little bit. Cut the dialogue down to have a different angle to cut to when he was maybe going off on a tangent or something. And then this was like just a pickup shot where I don't even know if he was talking right here, but kind of cool seeing his eyes in the mirror, and see him excited, get excited about how big the fish are.
Huge fish.
This song, I was very intentional about this song being here because of this shot and some of these other shots is like, whoa, this is like a different planet. And that's what I wanted it to feel like. As the editor, I was like, I really wanted to paint the picture and bring people into this world that was Iceland, which is, to me, I always describe it to people as like being on another planet, because it's just such a different place. And so I chose this song specifically because it reminded me a lot of Stranger Things, some Stranger Things vibes. So that's why I kept it in here. I first discovered... Cool. So this sequence was kind of fun. It was just a way to get into the fishing. It was just kind of a way to introduce the fishing. And because I chose this sequence because back here, we have Phil kind of talking about how it stopped kind of raining finally, and now we're getting into fish. This was actually shot, I believe, on the last day. So we had kind of rain off and on the whole week. But the last day was like actually pretty pleasant, and no rain at all. It was just nice and cloudy. So this sequence cut perfectly with kind of what he had talked about at the beginning. That's why I chose it to be there. And then I dipped it to black right here. Film dissolved it to black because I wanted to introduce the characters a little bit and kind of give a backstory to who I was and how I got introduced to them. And I left it black while I did this voiceover because I wanted people to really pay attention to like how I was introducing it, what I was saying, without seeing anything, so they could kind of just get that introduction. I first discovered the work of Gilbert Rowley and Phil Tuttle several years ago. To me, these guys were living the ultimate dream. They were out there fly fishing in epic places, catching big fish, and dominating the fly fishing film scene for years. And this is all true, right? So this film actually, Confluentus, is like the first film that I think I saw of Gilbert's, maybe. And it absolutely blew my mind. And ever since I saw that film, this is what I want. This is what made me want to be like these guys because of this film right here. And then I've seen, obviously seen this one, Seriously North, as well, which is just wild. I mean, what a fish, right? If you're into fly fishing, like that stuff's insane. So anyway, we'll continue on. I wasn't living my dreams. Growing up, I always loved fishing. I loved hitting the same honey holes with my buddies and always enjoyed finding some stockfish at the local pond. even if the fish weren't as big as I hoped they'd be. Deep down, I always had this feeling like I could do more with fly fishing. So this whole sequence that you're about to see is actually thought up when I was editing. I had no idea that I was going to do this kind of story while we were in Iceland, while we were preparing for this. I didn't know we were going to do any of this kind of stuff, but I had some archive footage from like, years and years ago. And like when I had kind of first, like when I'd really been getting into fly fishing, and then for some, like, I think this was on like a school project or something from college, from that is what this footage is from. Anyway, I thought this sequence up as I was editing, and I was like, ooh, maybe we could like figure out a way to kind of tell my backstory a little bit, right? And all these shots, I want you to keep in mind, every single shot here was shot by myself on a tripod. So you'll see like handheld movement in here on all of these shots that we're about to watch. Pay attention to those handheld movements. This is actually all shot on a tripod, and I can kind of break down how I did that here in a second after we watch it. Deep down, I always had this feeling like I could do more with fly fishing. Like it could take me places and let me do things I've always dreamed of doing. I couldn't see the path at all. I could only see the end results playing over in my head, like a recurring dream. As I kept seeing Gilbert and Phil's work, I got more and more curious about their processes, like the techniques they were using for both fishing and filming. Over time, we became friends. But little did I know, these small interactions were the beginning of what was actually the universe bending itself to make my dreams become reality. My great acting job there. That was supposed to be me getting off the phone with Gilbert or Phil, getting invited to go to Iceland, right? So just to kind of help paint the picture of like my dreams coming to reality. And I'm going to break down this sequence really quick on the non-colored version. So I actually, it's going to be kind of weird to explain, but just to kind of give you a quick overview, these shots were all shot on a tripod, and you can see that here, right? So I'm not going to delete all these because it would screw stuff up, but before I had these clips in here, I actually had this clip in here, and you can see it's just like a handheld shot. And then what I did was I drug that in here, and then on this other sequence, I applied a warp stabilizer effect. And what that did was take this handheld stuff and stabilized it. And then I replaced that. So it actually tracked, what it does is it tracks the movement on the nested sequence. I know this might be kind of hard to follow, but it tracks the movement, and then you just replace that movement with whatever. So I replaced it with shots that were on a tripod. And then what that does is it applies that handheld movement to your tripod shot. Hope that made sense for you. But that's a little hack that you can do without having to apply any kind of fake handheld movement. Sometimes those are great. Those can be great if depending who made it, but this is an easy way that you can just do it yourself. And that's what I did. Itself to make my dreams become reality. This is where I wanted the audience to be like, oh, suck. Like, what's going to happen, right? Got these shots were my favorite. Okay, real quick, I got to break down some of these shots really quick. So this shot was insane, obviously. Gilbert got this on his drone. The clouds broke for just a second. It was raining all day that day. Clouds broke for just a second. We were all the way down river over here somewhere. He's like, let me just launch the drone. gets it up, starts shooting, and we're all just like, what is happening? But he actually couldn't get quite to here. I think we had to move up a little bit, because this waterfall is all the way up around this bend right here. So he gets these shots that are just mind-blowing, and he got more too. Like, that's the thing, is like, again, going back to this sequence right here, like, he had a bunch of shots of these waterfalls. Let's see, I think it's right here. Yeah, like this waterfall, dude, I mean, my goodness, like, he had a bunch of these. And even this waterfall was super cool. And like, just waterfall after waterfall. This place is just covered in them. Anyway, so tons of cool stuff of this canyon. He even got some sheep up on the hillside. This was kind of fun. I was actually trying to find a place for these sheep. I could have put them in, but I just didn't. Funny little guys. Anyway, just a different planet again. Like, just walking through this moss is so cool. Anyways, back to the edit. I just packed this sequence full of like some epic shots, and this one to kind of tease what's coming, which is we're gonna fish right underneath this waterfall. And Gilbert actually did catch a fish under this waterfall. He caught a char, an Arctic char, but it did not make the edit because it broke off at the net, and so it was kind of a bummer. And yeah, but this was like raining really bad. I think this is a GoPro clip, and then this is the FX6, obviously. And one of us was holding like a rain jacket and something else like over the guy that was holding the camera while Phil went and fished, because my goodness, it was so cool. Like this sequence. This shot really quick. The reason why this works so good with these water droplets is because the sun is coming right at us, but we have a shadow in the background. So that's what makes it easy to see the fishing line and all these water droplets too, which is just epic.
That's funny.
Parked it, man. That was sweet. So this was actually crazy. I've never had this happen before on the fishing at all. This fish just swam right into the shallow, just literally parked it. Never had that happen. Never seen it happen. But I put this right here at the beginning because, like, we have a lot of serious shots back here, right? And I just didn't want it to get too serious. I didn't want to be like, oh, this is just epic shot after epic shot after epic shot, which is fine, by the way. But I threw that in there because it just kind of kept things a little lighthearted. Parked it, man. That was sweet. This fish was so pretty. I mean, just this was like a couple of days out of the ocean. You can see how chromed out it is. Fun fact about the fish, the sea-run brown trout in Iceland. They come, when they're fresh out of the ocean, they're really chromed out like this. And as they stay in the system longer, they get darker and blacker. So you'll see more fish. If you've seen the film, you'll see that, you know, as we go on, there's darker and darker fish. Okay, really quick. So this actually, we found out after, while we were editing, that this was actually a farmed salmon, which is a pretty sensitive subject right now in Iceland. Well, all over the world, really. But had we known that, we were just so caught up in the moment of, it had been a long time since anybody caught a fish. I think maybe even all day that day. And we were stoked that it was a salmon, not a sea-run brown trout, which, you know, we're stoked on any fish, but First, it was Gilbert's first Atlantic salmon, and we were so stoked about it. And then, I realized after seeing the footage and pictures, we're like, crap, that was a farm salmon, and we didn't kill it. So we were actually pretty bummed about it. Not much we can do about it now, other than just like apologize for it. So.
Oh, perfect Atlantic salmon, dude. Yeah.
What I was talking about, these fish, this is that golden fish in the very beginning. Black top, black fins. So this one has been in the system for a while. That's why it's so dark, so much darker than the other ones. But yeah, this is really just to like continue the build. This is just build. As we go through this next section of, kind of my dreams coming to fruition. Our dreams don't reside in a foggy future, but in the clear ability to make and act on specific choices today. Catching sea run browns in Iceland is just one of many dreams I have. And more than anything, this experience taught me that no matter how far away our dreams might seem, the moment we start taking action, the closer we are to making those dreams come to life. All right. So that section was really kind of the culmination, the peak, if you will, the climax of the film. Really just to kind of bring everything full circle. Plus, it was my personal best brown trout on the trip and ever. That measured, if you care to know, I think 31 and a half inches. It might have been 32. I think it was 31 and a half. And I caught it right in front of this epic waterfall. It was mind-blowing. I mean, it was crazy. So, anyways, epic moment of my life, and the rest of the film was just like, continuing to celebrate the reality of dreams coming true. Life. This was huge. It was like 34 inches, I think. And this part, like, we actually filmed, Phil caught a few shots of fish actually jumping up waterfalls, and we have more shots of fish. It was more just like celebrating kind of the entire dream of it as a whole coming to life, right? But this fish was bananas. I mean, we could have put more of that fish in there, honestly. Kind of fun. This little end sequence was fun. I thought it deserved its place in there too.
Remember when there's just always a waterfall in the background? Like everywhere we go? You don't have to go find one because there's a waterfall there. There's a waterfall there. There's a giant waterfall right there. There's a waterfall right there. There's a waterfall right there. Right there. Everywhere we go, it's so crazy.
That is true. It was exactly like that. A waterfall in every direction. Super, super cool. So that's kind of the breakdown of the edit, the film as a whole. We had so much footage. It was really hard to kind of select what to keep, what to throw away. But I mean, we've got a ton of footage of this place. We hope to go back and maybe develop more of a story around Iceland. Not really sure what that might be, but maybe in the future, we can get something there. And as you can see kind of on my timeline, just to go back to the beginning, I did use some sound effects in here, but not like tons. There's some risers, some water stuff, some just ambient rain, ambient underwater type stuff. but not a ton. Like, I've sound designed other stuff before and gone way heavier on the sound design. I didn't go crazy with this, mostly because I didn't have a ton of time, and I also just thought, man, the visuals are telling the story so well. I don't really need to, but yeah, mostly it was time. I was like, I don't have a lot of time to like sound design the entire thing bit by bit. But this last sequence obviously was the one that had the most sound design on it. I thought it was the most important part probably, so that's why I did it that way. Anyways, this has been quite the video. I've never really done anything super long form like this before, so if you stuck around this long, thank you so much for sticking around and kind of seeing what I did with this edit. If you have any other questions about it, feel free to reach out to me. Like, I'd be so happy to answer anything, and maybe break down some other sequences in more detail that you might have more questions about. And again, like, I've kind of forgot to get into the coloring part of it, but yeah, this is the main sequence. I sent this over to Jake Pierre-Lee, who colored this film, and he did an insane job. I gave him some direction, but mostly I was like, dude, just do your thing on this, and he like knocked it out of the park. So stoked with him to work on it, and yeah, he did a great job matching all the clips and with all the different cameras that we had. So anyways, that's about it. Thank you so much for sticking around, and again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Be happy to help you out. And look forward to seeing you on the next one.